poring over stats, studying charts, and trying to spot trends. But what if I told you that you could use those skills to invest and feel that same sense of anticipation every day? TD Ameritrade thinks you can. That's because a lot of those same analytical skills you use to set your lineup can help you build a portfolio. Not to mention, TD Ameritrade has all the education and investing tools you need to feel confident when you take the trading floor. There's paper money so you can practice trading risk-free. There's charting to help you spot trends in the market. And they'll even create an investing training plan that's unique to you and your needs, complete with exclusive videos, webcasts, and courses. Just visit tdameritrade.com/fantasy to get started. Member SIPC. Unfortunately for the Falcons, during a dominant win over the Saints, running back Devonta Freeman gets injured with what is called a foot issue for now. We do not, and this is 10:30 on the East Coast on Monday, know the severity of Devonta Freeman's foot injury, but we do know that Brian Hill is the next man up. Brian Hill had 20 carries for 61 yards, 10-yard touchdown reception as well. Hill, for those unfamiliar, was a former fifth-round pick out of Wyoming who started his career with the Falcons, got waived, claimed by the Bengals, waived by the Bengals, claimed again by the Falcons. In a world in which Devonta Freeman misses time, Matthew, is Brian Hill an RB2? Is he a...
Yes.
I was a flex play RB2?
I think so.
Yeah.
Look, it's a good offense. The struggles that Atlanta has had this year has been defensive.
Right.
You know, they've been able to move the ball fairly effectively. And so with Ito Smith on IR, if Devonta Freeman, you know, we talked about him a little bit last week as well. This is kind of an interesting pickup if you follow social media over the weekend. But, yeah, I mean, Brian Hill's going to be the guy. You know, I was encouraged by the fact that he caught the touchdown pass. It's one play, whatever. But the fact that he could be used as a three-down back, that they're comfortable throwing him the ball, that he's a decent pass catcher as well. It's a pretty thin depth chart after Brian Hill. My expectation
might have to make a move there.
My expectation is they'll sign somebody, or maybe they'll
promote someone from the practice squad, something like that.
My expectation is that if Devonta Freeman is to miss some time here, and we don't know as we record this Monday morning at 10:32 a.m., we don't know the extent of the injury, but if he were to miss some time, I would think Brian Hill would be your number one pickup on your free agent finds column.
It is. We're at the juncture of the season, by the way, for those, just as a message, sort of like a PSA, where free agent finds is not quite the same column as it was in week 3. Right now, injuries can certainly change things, but most of the players that we've been pounding the table for several weeks have either crossed the 50% threshold or things have changed for them. But yes, Brian Hill currently listed as my number one waiver ad of the week, a player that just based off of opportunity alone has a chance at, you know, this is 20 or so carries. This is the same sort of workload you could have expected out of Mark Walton, just in a better, more efficient offense with more chances for a touchdown for Brian Hill.
20 for 61 probably doesn't look great.
It does not.
But
20 is the number I'm more concerned with.
Well, sure. I mean, exactly. I mean, again, 20 for 61 probably doesn't look great, but you have to understand, the Saints are a really good defense. Despite what happened yesterday, like the Saints are a very good defense, and so I don't know, getting 61 yards, you know, in a game that you weren't expected to do much against the Saints, like,
you'll take
yes,
it.
I agree with you. I'm much more encouraged by 20 versus a 61, and they obviously had the lead in this game, but still, yes, I would think that if Freeman misses time, Hill is your number one pickup.
So Ronald Jones had his best game as a receiver yesterday in the NFL. 11 carries for 29 yards with a touchdown, but 8 catches for 77 yards, which means 22.6 fantasy points for Rojo. Eye test tells you it's a changed player. He certainly looks much, much more confident this year, Matthew. Are we trusting Ronald Jones now?
I think sort of, kind of. Yeah. To the extent you trust anyone in the Buccaneers offense.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, look, you trust Evans and Godwin, obviously, but yeah, in certainly in the backfield. I mean, the 8 catches for 77 yards is what really caught my eye, because that's always been a part of his game that
he had 8 catches coming into the game for the whole season.
Right. And so that's never been a big part of a Bruce Arians offense either, by the way. It's always been much more about downfield passing. And so dumping off to the running back, like
David Johnson had some good years under Bruce.
Yes, obviously. I mean, it's weird. I don't think of David Johnson as like a human. I mean, like he's not like a normal. I'm just saying, like when we have David Johnson.
Tough day with David Johnson for you right now, huh?
No, I mean just I mean it like David Johnson was so inhuman, was so unbelievable in his years with Bruce. You know what I mean? Like, he's an outlier, is what I mean. Just because he's so phenomenally talented. That's what I mean.
Yep.
But other than David Johnson, you haven't seen it a ton. Anyway, the fact is we certainly haven't seen it with Tampa Bay this year, and so it was certainly nice to see with Ronald Jones. He's now scored in 3 of his past 4, 2 of the last 3. I'm sorry, each of the last 2 games and 3 of the last 4, he scored a rushing touchdown. And so, yeah, Bruce Arians this week sort of said, like, hey, I think Ronald Jones deserves more opportunity, and certainly in terms of total touches, he got it in this game, a game in which the Buccaneers won.
They did. They won this game. It was actually a very entertaining game.
Yes.
This is a game, kind of reminds me of like the random NBA game that goes like 132 to 128, even if it features like 2 of the worst teams in the NBA. Important win for Tampa Bay, snapping that 4-game loss. But Matthew, sort of a fantasy go situation here. O.J. Howard had 4 catches for 47 yards and a touchdown. Now, he also played against the Arizona Cardinals.
Right.
Who have been, historically poor defending tight ends so far this year.
They have been.
Basically every notable category in tight end stats, they are the worst in the NFL. Now, I've long said this, like I think sometimes tight end stats need to be taken with a grain of salt because there are so few capable tight ends. But they've even made less than capable tight ends look awesome. Here's the difference. O.J. Howard is good. This is what he should be doing. We should not be surprised by 4 for 47 with a touchdown for O.J. Howard.
Yeah, no, he's the 8th different tight end to score over 11 fantasy points against the Arizona Cardinals so far this year. Still has yet to have more than 4 catches in a game so far this year. Just 1 game with 50 or more receiving yards. I think, look, it's encouraging in that he did what a tight end should do against the Arizona Cardinals, right? He was productive, but we need to see more of it. Now, the tight end position is so desolate that he's certainly worth picking up. I would assume he makes your free agent finds column.
He does, and I say in there, I just, listen, it's not that I'm saying you have to start him because of what he did this past week. It's more that if this is part Arizona Cardinals defense and part he's now healthy and the Buccaneers have messaged something to him that, like, we need you and you are going to be the guy at this position going forward, then that part might be more important and might eventually earn him into your lineup every single week.
Home to New Orleans, at Atlanta, at Jacksonville, home to Indy. It's actually not a bad schedule for tight ends coming up. And so
they had their bye, which is important too.
Right.
Like you're looking at players right now that you're going to have to factor 1 week of them not playing for the next 2, and he's not one of them. We're going to come back and talk about a player who had 0 fantasy points, but we found out it's going to happen 90 minutes before the game begins. But first, a message from the Fantasy Show.